Told you we're looking at the NNPCL Reconstitution, its impact on the economy and the energy sector, and business confidence has gone up by 14%. What does that mean? Of course, amidst inflation decline. In the studio with me to look at this topics in conversation is Aliyu Ilias, as economist and a development expert. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now, before we get into the conversation, we see the Trump effect has I think I should rephrase it. The Trump hurricane has landed in Nigeria finally, and we're getting a 14% tariff on Nigeria's export to the United States. What's your take on that?
Right, I think it is quite expected because everybody who knows Trump has actually said it that it's going to be American first. And when he said American first, you know that we'll get the big part of it, especially because we do trade with Trump. I'm going to talk about doing trade with Trump, majorly our exports, because, and now the appalling part of it is that what are we going to reciprocate in terms of Islamic.
I want to see because you recall
that when you do it to China give it back.
Yes.
If you
Canada
do it to
give it back
to you. So what are we going to give back? That simply shows how susceptible we are in terms of trade. But we are going to manage it. In the long run, it's going to strengthen us the more because that will expose us to deal with other bloc. Remember there's all this other bloc that belongs to China and what have you. So that is going to expose us to Russia and all that. And that's the negative externality that is going to have for Trump and his country. But it's not a problem. Sometime in trade, when people push you back, you get strengthened and do more. But the thing is going to affect our income, and it's going to affect our level of exportation.
Anyways, even away from that, we even said that Mali and Niger sometime last week, that kind of the story you talked about them putting in 5%.
0.5.
Yes, even on Nigeria, because now they've left the ECOWAS country. So how does this, because it's so much is happening at the same time?
Right. I think for me, if you ask me as an economist, I think that's a good one because if you are just relaxing on your OAS, it just simply means that you don't have something to worry about. But for the fact that they're telling us how to be independent, how to actually grow within ourselves, how to get a good ally that will not disappoint you. In the case of those three juntas, you recall that at the point of the sanction, I can tell you Nigeria did not manage it very well. You recall that our president became president. A week after he became president, he became ECOWAS chairman. Perhaps he decide with the mind of a rookie, a learner who does not really know how to manage such crises. Well, going forward, I expect him to by now to reconcile with them because you recall that we are giving them electricity, we cut it off. And this is the military people, their thinking is not like a civilian person. They're not looking at aftermath of their decision, they're looking at what they want to benefit immediately. And another thing is that, if you notice today, President get out to France. And France has to happen to be their enemy, right? So they are looking at it from that perspective too. Yes, that we are rubbing mind with people that we are thinking they are our enemy. Remember that their policy of assimilation is also affecting them. So a lot of things to think about. But for the sanction, for the tariff they are bringing on us, we don't have choice. It is only Nigeria that doesn't respect what it has. It's only Nigeria that becomes a dumping ground. It's only Nigeria that you can do anything you like. Now they are teaching us how to say no. Even the African Free Continental Trade Agreement. My argument always is that don't allow them to make you a dumping ground. Also tell them that we don't want to bring
you can't allow this.
To bring everything. And if you have to bring this is the tariff you are going to pay. That would have allowed our infant industry to really grow. So for Trump, it is expected. The only thing is how do we reciprocate it? And another thing we see that, you remember Nigeria just joined, please remind me this bloc that belonged to Russia, China. BRICS. Now, Nigeria has joined BRICS not as full member, as not permanent member or what have you. They are also looking at that trajectory. My question is that how do we harness that opportunity that we not felt what Trump is bringing to us? We have to look at that area as well.
Okay. All right. Now, thank you for the insight on that conversation. Now, let's get into it. Just a few days ago, just 2 days here actually, for being honest, our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu reconstituted the leadership of the NNPCL as part of broader strategy to revitalize Nigeria's oil sector and drive economic reforms. Now, the most notable change is the removal of Mele Kyari as the GCEO, with Bayo Ujulari, a former executive, taking over the role. Also, the non-executive chairman of the board has been removed, and Amadou Musa Kida has now been appointed. He was formerly with Total. Additionally, an 11-member team has been selected to enhance governance and operational efficiency within the company. Now, according to the shake-up, aligns with the administration's push for efficiency, transparency, and increased private sector participation in the oil and gas industry. Now, what's your take?
Right, I think it is surprising, I must tell you, and it was, the news was...
Surprising?
It's quite surprising. You know why? Tinubu actually retained Mele Kyari. Recall?
Yeah, I know.
Buhari actually appointed Mele Kyari, and the tenure of Mele Kyari elapses during President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So we were expecting that he's going to change him, but before we know, he said, Mele Kyari, I can give you the nod, please go ahead. So for me, why I say it's surprising, I can tell you, Mele Kyari has done something that are unprecedented.
Okay.
One, is the longest serving
GCO.
Yes, GCO. Is also the longest, has also bring more invention compared to others. You recall that it is during his tenure that the transformation, the PIA actually moved, you understand, as expected. You also recall that it is this time that we move from 1 million barrel per day to 1.8 million barrel, I can tell you. So, and he also during his time, we have also seen that he pushed back oil theft to an extent, because at a point it was back to back that we are seeing it, that people are, if you don't catch this today, they catch this tomorrow. During his time also, he has also introduced giving contracts of security to Niger Delta.
Yes, to ease their military.
So if you look at it, generally, you have ramped up much more production in that area. So for me, if you look at the trajectory, he has actually performed well. He's also only one who transits from the former NNPC to NNPCL.
Okay.
So if you look at those areas, you see that he's just quite exceptional among other GMD and GCU. He has the two portfolio.
Yes. So what could we look at for the new man, Bayo Ojulari's leadership? Maybe we won't know much about him since he was in Charlotte, maybe not in the limelight. But do you have any inclination as to the kind of thing we should expect from him? Right.
In private sector, you may not need to actually be in the limelight if your company is making the money and the Naira and Kobo is coming as expected. So for me, I think it's a major shake-up, we must say, because Tinubu is bringing a total private person to NNPC. Okay. We have never had it before. Recall Mele Kyari also transited from GMD to GCO. You understand? So now, the challenge is that this person coming from private orientation, how do we manage the bureaucratic bottleneck in that area? How do we manage the stakeholder? Because for now, the stakeholder is still the federal government, state government, and local government. And you recall that there is this, during Jonathan, I should say, or even during other ones, there is this hand that always invincible, that will say, do this, do that. Would they still continue in that trajectory in this case? Will this private person understand how to marry private and public service together? You also recall that I think since all of them have been assuming the role of a minister. Remember, the president is also the minister. Yes, so that means there's a direct control from the president. So are they going to allow private orientation, private operation, to actually work? Because during Buhari, I recall the sack, what's his name, who also worked in Shell before, was the Minister of State Petroleum. I don't know what I want to do. He came from Shell as well. He was later sacked. So this person that is bringing total private, would they allow him to operate as a private person? That's the question.
Well, I want to believe if you're going to employ somebody to do a role, you're going to at least allow them to do the job that you appointed them or gave them to do.
Right. The freedom there in private sector is not the freedom you have in government related. Because in private sector, you only want to see the bottom line, which has to do with the profit making. But this NNPCL, beyond that, is we are looking at it from private operationalization now. It's also for some level of welfareism in the long run. You know why? Now, with the way we are looking at things, if you look at the price of petroleum products now, most of us are saying it's too high. We want it to come down simply because it's the backbone of the Nigerian economy. Anything that happens to price of petroleum, price of diesel, price of gas, it affects all the household and our businesses. So we are now looking at how can you manage it in the way that you also be handling the private sector manner, but it will also benefit Nigerians. Looking at side by side like Saudi Aramco, you know, we have to look at it in that area.
All right now, so what impact will this restructuring have on Nigeria's oil production and global energy market standing? Right.
So when you talk about oil production, I think this person will do more because he wants to see the level at which Belekere has built it up to. He wouldn't want it to come down. People like us are public analysts will say, no, you are bringing it down from what the man has actually
taking us back.
Yes, taking us back. So I think in his era, I want to see a better Nigeria petroleum products, and I want a better competition. And I will have to like to expand on the competition. As big as US is with over 150 refinery, do you know they still import aviation fuel from Dangote to America? Yes, it is ongoing. As big as Saudi Aramco is, do you know Saudi Aramco is also importing from Nigeria, from Dangote? So we should not stop importation in Nigeria as well.
Really?
Yes, simply because we need competition. Oil and gas, as it were, is a global commodity. So when you shut the door for global operationalization of your global competition, you bring Nigeria to a much more problem. Let me give you the example. Dangote is producing, and according to him, he can produce what Nigerian that is not for Nigeria and it will remain, right? NNPC is producing, but what they are producing is not even up to 5% of what we need daily. That's not a good one. So if we do not allow importation, who will now compete with Dangote? It becomes a problem. You also recall that we're talking about MRS now, that everybody is queuing at MRS.
But MRS buys from Dangote.
Right. For me, I think it's the same thing, different name, if you ask me. So now, if nobody can actually bring a competition that will compete with them, they become the sole and monopoly are set in. You recall, let me also give you a side example of cement. Do you think if there's room for importation of cement, we'll buy cement at this rate? There will be competition because people will go and buy, they will do what is called economic of scale. They will buy in large quantity and there will be competition, and I tell you cement will come down. So we should not allow the same thing that happens. So for me, for Ojulari and the non-executive director, their major assignment should be to make sure that we have competition, healthy competition that will bring down the price, because all Nigeria want to benefit is a drop of price. Okay,
so let's go back a bit. You talked about in America they are importing aviation fuel. Is it the country or individuals themselves? Because I would think it would be better for a country to be able to solve their own fuel needs, right? And then maybe individuals now do the importation.
Right. So when you say country and individual, if a country does not allow you to import, you cannot import. So it is the country that gives room for importation. So I think Nigeria should also allow marketers to go out and import.
But the NNPCL is already importing.
Right. So thank you. So in that case, NNPC is importing. Let's also allow other private players to import. So when you allow other players to import, NNPC import, Dangote produces, do you know the market will be to our benefit? There will be healthy competition. Recall, Dangote came out, was it 2 months ago, that I have about fuel that can take Nigeria 1 month in my tank. No, that's what we want to hear. So that when you have it in your tank and the buyer have alternative to buy from, you will not do what? You now lower your price, and that's what happened. But now it has been increased again. So that's why we must make sure that there's competition, so that Dangote also will not feel that I am the only person who can operate. As much as Dangote is a good thing that happens to Nigeria for a long time.
Okay. All right, now, so can this change in leadership NNPC, would it build a stronger public-private partnership in the oil sector?
Right. You know, I'm so happy when they said the person is coming from private sector. So that means it's bringing private sector orientation. He wants to make more profit, and to make more profit, that means he has to open up the more. So for me, but the pure private person is coming to oil and gas sector, it's a positive thing that's happening. That is when we will now see true NNPCL. The L there will now be much more functional, whereby his orientation is that how do I make sure that people in Niger Delta are even compensated that they will not see reason to, want to blow up any pipeline? How do I make sure that the CSR is working well? How do I make sure that people, in fact, I listened to Lokobiri, the Minister of State Petroleum, where he went out to canvass for companies to come and invest in our oil and gas, and I was so happy because that's what we actually need. But before we invite them, like my argument was that, have you provided enabling environment? How about your licensing processes? How about your turnaround time? We have to look at how about the security in Nigeria and Niger deltas. How about the foreign direct investment enablers? These are the things, because if you provide it for them, they will definitely come and and they also said there's an argument that some people even have is it oil well we call it, that are not operation. Why are they not operating it? Why will you get license and you not operate it? So give them a deadline. In 2 years, if you don't operate,
that's the way they do in the FCT. If you don't build the house, we will
draw it. So we will draw that license. Perhaps if there's there could also be reasons why they are not actually harnessing it. So also ask them, what is your reason? If they say, okay, it is security problem, okay, provide it for them. These are the things that we need to look at. So by so doing, Nigeria will be better, the economy will be better, because our mainstay of the economy is still our oil and gas sector.
Now, what does this, as you said, you expect that you will be competition. Does this mean for fuel prices and availability for Nigerians? Right.
The first thing that should happen that will bring competition is availability of fuel. You recall, until we stop queuing at the filling stations, until we find it difficult to access fuel in some places, that is when everybody will be free. And by so doing, when it happens 6 months, 1 year, there will be a kind of price will now be a determinant, because I think the market is now broken to free market, whereby you can go here is 1,016 naira, can go here 900, can go here 700. The Nigerians will now choose. Someone like us will always follow the Kabu people. You know why?
Yeah,
they know.
Yes.
They know the right place to buy from.
Where the fuel is
good and where the price is good. So they combine those two things. I will now join them. Okay, is that where you are going? Let me join you. So these are what we actually want to experience under this new leadership.
So anyways, from what you've said, we can see that the small and medium scale enterprises actually help Nigerians live a better life, because if you're going to follow Kabu guy to go and buy the right fuel, you see that they have impact in our daily life.
There are even 70% that actually run this country. Those small businesses. Without them, in fact, they are the one that will scale up. They're the one that will feed the industry. So we must make sure that we make things much more easier for them.
All right, now, do we think we need to reduce fuel imports?
Well,
you said no,
yes,
but I'm thinking, does NNPCL need to reduce fuel imports and then rather allow individual marketers, private marketers?
When you say NNPC, I'll say yes. NNPC need to find a way to reduce.
Okay.
You recall that they have 4 refineries.
Yes.
And the third one is at 80% capacity.
That'll be Port Harcourt.
Port Harcourt, right. Then the Warri is also working, but by and large, all what they are producing is not up to 5%. So they need to ramp up production in that area to increase. They also need to work on Kaduna and the second Port Harcourt, right? I think Port Harcourt has old and new. They need to work on the new, so that if you can produce 20% of what we need, and Dangote said he has 100, and the importation is also shocking, like 30%. So I think that will be much more. So for NNPC, please find a way to stop importing, produce in Nigeria. Why allow private sector to go globally to actually import? There's a time we are even asking that there is quality fuel in the end.
So this is better. Which one is better? And
which one is better? So that will now also come to play. If the importer is giving us quality fuel, we go there. If Dangote is giving us quality fuel, we go there. If it's NNPC, we go there. Because at the point we have to even do traceability. Who is actually selling Dangote? Who is actually selling NNPC? And who is selling imported fuel? I think at that point, Nigerians will guide themselves. That, okay, if you go to ABC filling stations, it is imported and good. If you go, so I think we need to get to that level, that analytical level, whereby we can now have healthy competition, and it will be good for Nigeria. It will be good for our vehicle. I took my vehicle to mechanics, and I tried to find out, why is this car having issues? They said it's fuel. They said it's a function of bad fuel, and that's still fall on NNPC. They are two. Is it NNPC or
NNPDR.
I think that fall on their own purview to look at who is actually bringing the quality
of fuel
that is actually
that's been brought
because so that it will not
country.
be moving to a mechanic every now and then.
Last question before we move to our second conversation. How can the public hold these new leadership accountable for reforms?
Right. You know, like I said, the first thing is that we are going to compare it with the last person. And you can't run from there. We now look at he has actually managed it very well. In fact, Tinubu actually enjoyed him. I think maybe circumstances, we don't know what come behind.
But I really would like to know
honestly what happens that made him to actually, because military is actually doing well. And some people argue that maybe because he's not. But you also put somebody from the north, so to say. So we need to know. But the first thing that we compare him, the second thing is that we also create a barometer for him. How well has he done? First quarter, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Because you need to bring that private sector initiative. Because there's an argument that people that come from public sector manage well. There's some argument that also say people from private sector actually manage well. So most of us as an economist, we also look at a capitalist initiative and socialist initiative.
Yeah, I'm sure the public sector person manages well, while the private sector person increases profit.
Exactly. So no, they have capitalist ideology.
How to make money.
How to make money. Why the public sector may be thinking, let's balance. Why we make money, let's also allow our citizens to also be well in terms of what they actually enjoy. So we expect good from him anyway. Let's not preempt how he's going to perform. But on that, Tinubu, I think money remains a very cogent reason for giving you any responsibility. Yes, they want to get more revenue.
Yes. All right, so that's the much we're taking on the NNPCL's conversation, the reconstitution of NNPCL. Let's go to this other story where we see the business confidence in the country has risen to a 40-month high amid inflation decline in Nigeria. Now, it's a positive development for us. For the economy, business confidence has reached a 40-month high, reflecting optimism among entrepreneurs and investors. This surge in confidence comes as inflation in the country shows signs of easing, offering hope for economic stability and growth. Now, key factors, according to this, driving this confidence is declining inflation, government reforms, improved currency stability, foreign investments. Now, declining inflation has seen a significant concern in Nigeria for some time and has now shown a steady decline. It's going down. Every time the NBC brings out a report, it seems that the inflation has gone down. Government reforms, economic reforms such as restructuring of key state-owned enterprises like the NNPCL we just finished discussing has helped to improve the business environment, and a more stable naira has also helped. But that's me talking. Let's go to the expert here who would give us more insight now. What's your overview take on that?
The aim of every government, the aim of every policy making is to make sure that Nigerians get better.
Yes.
So every president will come and bring about their own. So it's about 2 years to Tinubu administration. We've seen the high, because I must tell you, we feel it so high. But as of now, I think we are seeing ease to an extent. But will ease take us to the way we are coming from? That is the question that is begging for answer. However, we have seen marginal decrease in some things, even forex. I think is about 1.4 something now. We have also seen decrease to a marginal, because please mark that word, marginal decrease in price of food as well. And like they actually mentioned in that report that business confidence is actually increasing. Well, we hope that it will actually be sustained, because it's not a lot of. So we have seen a lot of policy reform to an extent, but let's even start from CBN. CBN has put up a lot of policy framework, and I've not seen it working in NPR, because I've not seen them reducing interest rates, and that's where my own is, because it is decrease there that will actually bring growth. Because someone like me that is a businessman will now like to, okay, let me go borrow so that I can actually use it. But if I'm borrowing at a higher rate, I would think, no, let me just and that's why most manufacturing sectors are still looking at what happens in the economy. Then in terms of other policy making, the major one would have been tax reform, and it is still on on debate. We hope it will come out well. That's what we'll see. Then when we talk about other indicators, well, let's look at infrastructure. I've not seen major infrastructure that will actually bring about because when you say infrastructure, it has to do with a good road, good policy, ease of doing business. I've not actually seen that, and because someone like us don't believe in periodic intervention, we believe in total overhauling of solution. When I say intervention, you can give a businessman 10 million, 5 million, what have you, but look at the cost of transportation as it actually reduces, because it's not the major thing that is giving us problem is energy. So when you talk about energy sector, you look at as actually electricity reduced compared to before. We've not seen a reduction. In fact, there is a warming up of increasing band B cost. That's what we get last. Then we see reduction in price of fuel. We have not seen major one, though we see they will go up, they will come down. Then we have also seen, the only thing is that I think CNG, so for those of us who use CNG, we discover that they are expanding the stations more. But has it really solved the problem? No, because people are coming to the fold the more, so it has not really helped. But we have only seen that there's a reduction in the conversion rate. I converted at 900,000, and people are converting now at 500, 400. So that's a marginal, and that's what we expect. But it's not only about conversion, because if you go there now, you can queue for 2 hours. So it's quite discouraging. So if you queue for 2 hours because you want to buy, I know that we don't have a lot of what we have. Our cylinder cannot take much. It's just maybe you buy 3,200. So these are the things that I want them to do more, so that we can have much more stations to buy from.
We'll just stay a bit on your CNG conversion.
Right.
So what's the experience been so far?
Right. So I converted late last year. So to be candid, that would have been the best thing to happen to Nigerians, because when you buy a U65 cylinder, CSM cylinder. So I used to buy like 3,400. That will give me 13, 14. There's a way we measure it. So that 14, if I want to buy fuel, would have been fuel of like 16,000. But I'm buying CNG of 3,200. Yes, and it's a good one for us. But the only problem I said that discourages people like us more is the level. We have to spend 3 hours before you can buy it. So it's not easy. So if we can do more in that area of CNG to make sure that a lot of, but another thing that I think we need to look at is that most commercial vehicles that have converted, they're not collecting the commensurate price. The reduction, they're not really allowing to reflect in their own prices.
They are still taking
what others are taking. So I don't know how government is going to measure and make sure that they really control that area. Because if you see that people are buying, if someone that who buy CNG gas at 3,200 and someone who buy fuel at 17,000 still carrying the same passenger, same price. So it's
I'm sure the person is probably looking at it from he's still looking at, I spent so amount
I invested in it. But at what point will you stop that? That's what we need to look at. And that's why government need to roll out its own bus too and its own vehicle. That's the only way you can control. So if government vehicle stand and said, I'm going to Suleja, I said I should pay 200 naira. And commercial said 1,000 naira. So I'll go to government. So by the time you see that is this government, you bring your own to 500. So and that's why someone like us love competition. So you must bring those things that will bring that competition, so that the price will reduce. We've not seen those long bus. For me, I don't know. I've not seen so much of them.
Yes, apparently it should have been a thing that should have been done. The government should have put in their own CNG buses.
And government also supported some NURTW to actually convert it for free. So when you support people to convert it for free, what is the benefit therein? You are supposed to insist as well
that the prices will reflect that you're now buying
exactly. So those are the things we are actually saying. And I can tell you, most people that are commercial are actually coming to the food gradually. So if we can also help that, if we can also do that for our food. We talk about food security and the food supply chain. If it reflects on food supply, maybe all these long articulate vehicle, because we see a lot of them have converted too. So if they have converted, it should have also reflect
in the price of driving, transporting the food.
Even the price of food. We may not see the chain of it, but it should reflect at the last level of consumption for consumers.
Okay. All right. Now, so this whole story talking about that this happened due to amidst a decline in inflation. Now, how sustainable is this, our inflation decline?
Right. I think sustainability is the key. And that's why some of us, when you say it has declined, when the new government is good at making more noise about their success. No, we should say it. No, when they do good, we say they do good as well. But when you look at Cardoso, Cardoso was so happy that we have more foreign reserve, and he was jubilating. I think that's how the news actually. It's a good one, but how do you actually make sure you sustain it? Because sustaining is because next year we define Tinubu administration. We will not be looking at you from that you are still there again. 2 years would have gone. Not next year, next 2 months rather. You know, by May it will be 2 years. So we now start to look at how is your policy actually affecting the Nigeria economy. So I think it's a good one that we're having some marginal, but they need to sustain it. And the first way to sustain it is to make sure that we work on our forex. You know, forex is very key. We wouldn't want to see it going up again. Make sure that it's actually coming down. And how will it come down is to solve the legacy problem that we have. How far with our production amidst all what we are. Say, I want government to say now, we have increased our production level. We have done, that's what I want to see. So that it will be a result of the real economy, not because of temporal interventions.
All right, so just in 30 minutes, the role local businesses and SMEs will play in sustaining this growth in confidence.
Right.
In 30 seconds.
Right. The fact just remains that you must continue to empower, small business. And how do you empower them? So provide enabling environment in terms of intervention. Intervention is good, but you must also make sure that you do it that it should be sustainable. Because if you give us grants now and we don't have an enabling environment to do it, so and that's why government must do more the price of fare. We must continue so that we have reduction in that area. That would have reflected and encouraged. And the NPR too, they should look into it. All
right. Thank you so much, Aliyu Ilias. It was a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Discussing issues, NNPCL Reconstitution of the board and the leadership, and of course business confidence that has increased to 14% amidst an inflation decline. That's the much we have for you today on Business Daily. Thank you for joining us for more of our programs, news and documentaries. Do want to follow us on our social media platforms and on our YouTube live stream. I am Chiamaka, Nwafor. Same time, same place tomorrow. Bye for now.